zoom this in. All right.
This is where I just say, dude, I got you. I got you right now. Now I'm just going to throw you on the spot. I got a couple questions. It's hard to get testimonials from people, man. They get a new job and they run away as fast as they can, right? They're like, thank you. So before we start reconnecting, man, maybe this video will help someone else. You know what I'm saying? So when we first started working together, you had been unemployed for, I don't know, how long was it? Was it 6 months or a year or what?
No, it was it was a little over a year.
Yeah. And you left that job just because it wasn't, a lot of people probably would have liked that job, man. You're doing some cool stuff, right? But hey, everyone's ideal situation's different, right? Why did you end up leaving that job again?
Mostly it was the culture of the leadership. Not so much my coworkers; they were actually fine. I'm still friends with them. I still talk to them, but it was just the VPs and the CEO. They were just not the kind of people I want to hang out with or be around. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember some of the stories you told me. So who we have here? We have Chris, Air Force veteran, 20 years, got out, senior NCO, right? Educated, extreme education, master's degree, still working on your doctorate degree, right?
Yep.
Wanted to make a change, wanted to get back to Orlando to be really just closer to your family, right? Because somehow that job ended you up in Arkansas, right?
Right, Little Rock.
Cool. So struggles, right? So we know where you wanted to go. At that point, you're just like, Tim, get me to Florida, dude, right? Whatever we can do, right? As long as I make it X amount of money and, So whenever we first started, right, we know where you wanted to go. What were some problems you had along the way, right? You remember when we were talking about connecting and things. So just like what were some issues that you had when we first started going?
Do you mean like prior to me starting your program or just?
Yeah, both actually. Well, let's talk about prior first.
Yeah, I think it's probably what a lot of people run into is when you send out application after application, you get on USA Jobs and you fill out 25 applications and then you don't actually even hear anything much. The job closes and they don't even update it. You have no idea where you stand. All of a sudden it's been months and months and there's nothing. So you'd actually, for me, you would call the 1-800 number and you literally have to ask them about each job. Like, okay, this job number, they're like, oh, that's been filled. Oh, that's been filled. We just don't update anything ever. So you never know where you're at. And then no callbacks. Like and I would do other stuff, not just USA Jobs. I was all over websites, for where I wanted to be, businesses that I thought I could get into in the areas I wanted to be in, and no callbacks, not even we'd like to hear more or let's talk about your resume. That literally was, It was like it was like I wasn't even trying.
Yeah. And then when we started working together, hey, everyone wishes that you could just work together with someone who even knows this process, but likely people do still have struggles, right? Working together, what were some of your struggles that we had to, work through?
For me, it was probably putting in the work on your spreadsheets.
Accountability?
Yeah, not because, I'm like holding myself accountable because I had you and then some people in the group, but I'm not married. Most of my kids are grown and gone. My other one's young. He doesn't know what's going on. So I got nobody making me do anything except me. And
then you were traveling all the time, man, because life goes on, right? You're seeing family, you're spending time with loved ones, right? So, and then obviously we got you on the consulting gig where it's one of those things where, hey, should I take this? And, I was doing what I forgot to tell you is we were working together. A lot of people don't know that 78% of people who work a consulting gig end up obtaining full-time employment. And that's actually what happened to you too. So who would have thought, by the way, right? Everyone always tries to talk about ideal situations, but you've never been in sales before, traditionally, right?
No.
So how does a guy who's never been in sales, right, take over business development for a whole new area of the company that they're like branching out?
Yeah, so they called me in. They were looking for a consultant. It was an area that I had worked in prior to my most previous job. and they were looking to get into a contract there, a government contract with the people I work for. They fill government contract, and they said, hey, you've done this before. You were good at it according to your resume. You had a lot of success at that. We'd like to pick your brain. You want to come down and consult for us? And we negotiated an hourly rate that was good for me, and went down there and did that for 3 weeks, actually. Went down for 1 week. They said, okay, thanks. We think we got what we need. And they flew me home. And then the next week they said, no, we need more. Fly you back 2 more weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And, then at like literally the day before I was supposed to leave, it was a Thursday. I was leaving out Friday afternoon to fly back to Little Rock. They're like, how would you feel about a permanent position here? Because, and then later on, what I found out was they liked my work ethic. They liked my attitude and my, they said they hire for personality and then they train.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what they told me after I already started there. I was like, we liked, it was like a 3-week interview, basically.
Yeah.
So, and that's that. They called me and they made offer, and I'm counter offered, and we came to an agreement, and then I moved down here, Orlando.
Just with Steve, and we'll talk offline after this, but just like Steve's story, I remember, so you're unemployed for so long, right? And then you finally get that consulting gigs that come, and then I remember this is so funny because we already talked about salary and negotiation, kind of how to do that. And from someone not doing something for a long time, someone approaches you and they're like, hey, we'll give you this per hour. And you're like, why don't we just throw on like that much too, right? Like you have to be confident, right? You have to have some conviction in that. Otherwise that would have not happened. And that was the difference of probably several thousand dollars. And then probably had a lot of influence to do whenever you eventually went to talk to him again about money for a permanent position.
Yeah, I just figured when they came at me with a number, I'm sure they didn't come at me at the top dollar. So I added about 35% to what they offered me. And then they came back, they met me in the middle, basically. Yeah. And I was like, okay, because I would have honestly taken if they came back and said, not, this is the number, I'd have been like, okay, it's still okay. But
I always tell people too, money is one thing that no one likes to talk about, but everyone wants more of. Right?
Yeah. Awesome. You can't lose for asking, right? You can't.
Cool. What advice would you have for someone who's like where you were, right? And then like finally say, hey, I need help, and then like push you over the edge. What would you have some advice for someone who's like, hey, when do you know that you need help or not, right?
Right. Well, so like I said earlier, like I got nothing. I was getting no callbacks. I was getting no interviews. I had no leads on anything. And I was like, I started looking for some help, coaching or some kind of, something. Found your program, looked at the costs, and I was like, okay, return on investment. It looks like it might cost some more than some people probably want to spend up front, but the first paycheck more than covers the cost of the course. And if you didn't have a job for 6 more months, whereas getting the course and doing what you're supposed to and having a job in less than 90 days, well, you're way ahead.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I was. I was like, I'm tired of like doing this on my own. It's not working. I'm not getting anything. Like, it's not like I was blowing interviews. I couldn't even get a phone call.
Yeah.
So, then by the time, I stuck with the program and did my calls and did my networking and did my spreadsheets and did I was supposed to. And what's funny is they flew me down for that consulting gig. I also had an interview an hour away in Melbourne that same day. I passed on that interview to do this consulting gig, but they were like, well, come on down if you want to. And I ended up not doing it because they offered me a job. But
awesome.
Like I went from 0 to 2 in a week,
Awesome. And the group helps too, right? When you were in there with Pam and Steve, who we'll talk about that they got offers now and they're in their new role. So it's like, it helps, right? It's like, hey, I'm not the only one, right? There is other people out there who's a VP of marketing, a director of IT, different individuals dealing with the same struggles and kind of working through it.
Right. And I've actually been meaning to get back with you because I wanted to see how those guys were doing because I see some activity.
We're going to talk. Yeah.
And I think Pam, you said got a job, right?
Yeah. And we're going to talk about that. But hey, brother, thanks for sharing, man. And I wish you the best of luck into your next role. All right.
All right. Thanks. I'll talk to you later.